Hello and welcome to the Truth About Living podcast. I'm your host, Bridgett, and today is a free flow day where we have a different topic. And I'm going to be sharing with you today a book that I love. And remember, you can download more episodes on iTunes where I release a new one every day, Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Or if you prefer the face-to-face version of this, you can find me. The podcast videos are uploaded on the Truth About Living YouTube channel, and contact me directly at the blog, thetruthaboutliving.com. The book that I want to share with you today, I love to just dive right in. So that's what I'm going to do. The book I'm going to share with you today pops to the surface because the truth is I could share about 50 books with you that I love. There are no shortage of books that I love and that inspire and that touch on personal growth or spiritual growth or business development and the like. But this one pops to the surface because I was recently talking about finances and giving 10% to charity and how I believe that it is a spiritual, an element of spiritual prosperity. And some people may call it a spiritual law. And because I was talking about this recently, it made me think about times in my life where I was not doing this. Actually, that's most of my life. Most of my life, I was not doing this practice. Can you have money without giving 10%, without, observing this spiritual prosperity law, without tithing? Absolutely. There are people who have, who knows, varying amounts of money. They've never given any to charity, and that's their business, right? So I'm not here to say that you can't be successful if you don't give 10% of your money. What I am here to say is that I believe that it's a very beautiful practice, and I do believe it can enhance your financial prosperity. It can improve your financial picture. And there's some principles underlying it that I want to share with you that come through in this book. Now, the book is called The 4 Spiritual Laws of Prosperity, and it is by Edwene Gaines, Gaines. And I'm going to just pull up real quickly. Here I have it open on Amazon. 4 Spiritual Laws of Prosperity. And, I read this book, 2 or 3 years ago. And so I had to go back and kind of refresh my mind on some of the different chapters. What I took away from this book, actually I took quite a lot away from this book, but the practice that this had me to begin on was giving the 10%, because I was not doing that previously. Some of the other stuff I was doing, I'm just going to run down and tell you what the 4 laws are. And if you look on Amazon, you can see in the chapter she highlights the 4 laws, I should say. And one of them is tithing. And you don't have to use that word. That's a word that I grew up with in church, but really it's just a matter of giving 10%. I know some people give 5%. 10% is what she teaches in this book. There's also the second law is goal setting. The third law is forgiveness. And the 4th law is divine purpose, or finding your divine purpose. And I think this is a really beautiful book, and I'll tell you why. Edwene Gaines, I'd never heard of her before this book, actually. But she shares a lot of her backstory in her life. And she's one of these people who will just put it out there and just say, this is what I did to change my life. These were the dire straits that I was in, and this is how I changed it. And so she gives you a lot of examples of things that she did that truthfully most people would not take the steps to do. And she's here to kind of share that story and to inspire you to do these things, to change your life or to improve your life. And some of the things, depending on what your your belief system, as some of these things may sound a little silly because it's about imagining and acting as if. And if you've read any books on universal truths or law of attraction or anything like that, you know the value of acting as if, right? Acting as if something is done, or imagining that something is done, something that you've asked for. It's about having faith that it's done, but it's also about convincing your subconscious mind that this is your reality, right? And so she talks about that a lot. And she tells a story about wanting to go on this trip to Mexico with her friend on this vacation when she had no money, when she really had no money. And she and her friend kind of made this game out of it, where they set up a day where they kind of set the stage by a pool, and they had these things that they would have if they were going to be vacationing in Mexico, and they just pretended. They just pretended that they were enjoying themselves in Mexico, and just made fun with it. Just had a fun day in that way, and just had faith that this was going to happen for them. And she tells the story in a really, I think, humorous way, and and of course the moral of the story is that this actually had happened for her, that it just, through circumstances that she could not have predicted, that this actually came to manifest in her life. That's really a lot of the takeaway of this book, is that there are forces, there are universal laws, there is something at work, whether you want to call it spirit, God, energy, whatever you want to call it. There is something at work that comes into play in ways that you cannot expect to meet what it is that you expect to happen, the things that you have faith that will happen. There are signs you get from God. There are things that will materialize in ways you could not know. And so from this little experiment she did about the vacation to Mexico and acting as if and pretending, and the things she did to kind of cue up her subconscious that these things were real, even though she still had some doubt, she was still doing these things and acting in faith. And at the last moment, she unexpectedly got this check from someone she hadn't seen or talked to in many years. And that check provided the almost exactly to the amount, the funds that she needed to pay for this trip. And I love that story, and a lot of stories that she includes in the book, because I do believe this. I really do. I really do believe this. And I remember when I started to operate my Amazon business, there was a goal that I set. And I knew that when I reached this goal that I was going to have this certain reward. I was trying to think of a good reward that would be meaningful to me, and would be something that I could just look forward to. So it was a goal of making $5,000 a month from this new Amazon business, and that when I reached the goal, that I would have, my husband and I would have this really nice bottle of wine. I had never had an expensive bottle of wine. Definitely was not a wine connoisseur, but we would buy a $10 or $12 bottle of wine on occasion. And so I thought, well, it would be really lovely to try a fairly expensive, not breaking the bank, but maybe a $60 bottle of wine. Let's just try. I would love to see what the difference is. It would be a real treat, to have this. And so I did not wait until I made the $5,000 a month. What I did was I took a little afternoon trip to a fancy wine store, and I talked to the man who owned the place and told him the things that I loved, and he suggested this particular wine. I bought it very excitedly and eagerly, and I put it on my kitchen counter. And there it sat. There it sat for some time. I don't know how long it was now. It wasn't that long, but it was a while, right? And it sat there, and I would kind of joke to my husband about it, because he would say, it's not, he was trying to kind of tame my expectations, because it wasn't going to be like this amazingly delicious bottle of wine just because I spent $60 on it. But that wasn't the point, right? The point was that I bought this in faith. I bought this celebratory thing in faith that this income level for this new business was happening for us, right? And so I would imagine that we were having this. I would get a wine glass. I was thinking, which wine glasses are we going to use? Let me make sure they're clean. So, I got the wine glasses down, and I would just have this little, 2 or 3 minute little imaginary session where I was enjoying this bottle of wine. And, when you do something like this, you may feel slightly crazy because you're playing like a child, right? And that's actually, I think, a really good thing. I think it's a really good thing to play like a child, to have a childlike faith, to make some fun of life, and to eagerly anticipate these delicious moments of our life, right? So I had this goal, I had this faith, I had this celebration planned, and then of course it came to pass. I made the income goal, we had the wine, it was a great experience, and I always remember it because it was partly inspired from hearing stories from people like Edwene Gaines or Mike Dooley. There's a lot of stories out about this. There was a story about, this is a side note, there was a story about this basketball contest, and it was something like, if you could shoot this basket from here, there was like this company was giving this crazy reward of like, I don't know, $1 million or something. Keep in mind, I heard the story years ago, and I'm probably flubbing up some of the details, but the overall message is the same. So this guy, he was picked to do this, and the chances of him getting this shot, getting it in the hoop like this, was like, I don't know, 1 in a million. I mean, it was a really challenging setup, and it was just meant as a promotion, right? And But the moral of the story is that this guy and his family and friends acted in faith that he already had this, that he had made this basket, that he had won this incredible prize. And so they spent weeks acting as if he had won it. And they asked everybody that they knew to help contribute to it. So they started planning a celebration party. I mean, this is what they really did this. This is well before this guy had shot the basket, well before any kind of celebration. And most people would have said, this is crazy. There's no way. There's no way you're going to, shoot that basket and get it in. It's just the odds are so far against you. It's just in fun. It's not actually meant to be won. But they didn't go forth with that attitude. They actually went forth with a celebratory attitude, and they planned the party, and they got the catering done, and they got the decorations, and they just lived in this attitude of faith that it was already done. And he made the basket, he made the shot. It was incredible that he made the shot. And so I think that there's a lot to be said for acting in faith. And that's a lot of what Edwene shares in this book, is about acting in faith. But to me, the highlight, what I was not doing before this book that I started doing, and the highlight of it is about contributing this 10%. Now, what does it mean when you contribute 10%? And where should you give it? What is this all about? This idea of giving in this way. We all know it's a wonderful thing to be charitable. It's a wonderful thing to be generous. I think that Edwene would even go as far as to say that you could almost calculate sometimes the proportion of the money that you make based on what you give. So for example, if you want to make more, give more, right? So it's often in proportion. The first year that I did this, that I dedicated to giving 10%, I remember when we went to do our taxes at the end of the year and looking at our income and our deductions and things, I remember thinking, wow, that's really close. You know, I ended up giving, now our income had changed substantially that year because we had a lot of things going on different in our life. I had left work to be a stay-at-home mom, and then I was starting this online business, and so we had different things going on. My husband was still working, but the proportion of what I had donated to charity was just about 10% of what the income ended up being. I mean, it was kind of crazy. And, you know, and I'll tell you as an aside too, that during the next year, when finances were not coming in as strong, you know, a lot of times with a business, when you're a business owner, there's fluctuations in your monthly income, different than having, right, like a salary job or something. And I remember I stopped doing this practice for a while. And at first it was just to stop doing it for a month or two because I think I started to get a little bit of doubt or a little bit of fear that we weren't going to have enough if I gave this 10%, which, as you know, is definitely not the approach you want to take. The whole point of this is about abundance mentality. So if you come at it from a point of view of you don't have enough to give, then guess what? You're not going to have enough to give. So so it started out, I was just going to skip doing it for a month or two. And then I think I would give some more, and then it just became inconsistent. I really did it sporadically, and then I just stopped doing it. I think I just kind of unconsciously just kind of shoved it out of my mind and just didn't really think about it. I didn't think about it. It wasn't like I was sitting down every month going, I could write this check, but I don't think it was more like I just kind of just stopped out of sight, out of mind, forgot about the practice. And, you know, I have to say that was not a good move. That was not a good move in a number of ways. You know, in terms of the person I want to be a giving and generous person. I also want to be a person who feels like I have enough to give. And so if you are in, you know, the negative emotional state about finances, even if it's not like finances are bad, but it's just tense, right? You feel like you need all the money that's coming in. You need that money. You're not in a free flow state about it, right? You're not in a state of abundance. You're not in a state of prosperity. You're not in a state of really good energy about your finances. It's more of a tense feeling. And so that kind of, you know, continued for a while. And then this year, I had some months of my Amazon business that were just not favorable, just not. And really considering what my goals had been and what I wanted to do with this business, it was not where I wanted to be. I mean, just plain and simple. You know, I thought that by this point I would be an Amazon millionaire, as many of my colleagues have become, and I wasn't. And in fact, there were months where the sales had dipped significantly. So, along with tension and stress and worry about those things, I had to do a reassessment, right? And really figure out what it is I want to be doing. Do I want to be contributing more to this business? Do I want a new path? Do I want to turn things around? Do I want to invest in more products? Do I want to invest in more training? All those things that come up when you're in business, right? One of the things I decided to do was to start this practice again of giving. So it's been several months, and I just started doing it. I just started doing it again in absolute faith. And so I just got my checkbook out, and I calculated to the penny What is 10% of this month's earnings? And who am I going to give it to? Or if it was an extra check I got for that week or for 2 weeks or whatever it was, every time money came to me, I sat down and wrote a check. And I found local places to give. There's no shortage of places, right, to share this with. Find places that are meaningful for you. I think Edwene gives to a church or churches. Probably many other places too, but I know she talked about that. She was saying, give to the place where you get your spiritual nourishment. Give there. And for me, I do it a little differently. I'm not involved in any churches, but there are places that are close to my heart. And so I just look for those places and give there. Now, what's the outcome, right, of tithing 10% and giving this away? Well, to me, for one thing, on a soul level, I feel much more at peace about it. I give with a glad and open heart. There is no feeling of lack or not enough or anything like that. It's just the first thing I do with the money. The absolute first thing I do is to write that check. And so it comes right off the top. I know the money is there, and I just bless it. I just bless it. Part of the joy of having money is being able to give money. And part of my I am statements is that I'm generous. And so I love this. I absolutely love it. And our finances, while they've never been something to really worry about, we've always been secure. Things had taken dips some months, and I was starting to feel a little bit of doubt or that kind of thing. But I will say that since I've been doing the tithing again, that income has increased. Absolutely. It is absolutely increased. And the more it increases, the more I give. And the more it increases, the more I give. And so to me, it's a beautiful practice. And it has, in my life, evidence. There's evidence. When I was giving 10%, I was making, more money. When I stopped giving 10%, I was making less money. And so I think they're very much connected. That's just my 2 cents on it. But that's what Edwene shares in her book. And in terms of, I talk about sometimes about with my son being 5 years old, and I talk about on the blog sometimes how we are educating him and homeschool and things like that. And one of the things I want to share with him is at an early age to start to give 10%. And and I remember hearing this from Jim Rohn too. He said that he likes to teach kids about money, and he likes to make it, money is something you can count easily, and kids like money, and it's just kind of an easy place to start with kids in terms of teaching them about, about life and about creating value and personal growth. And so what he said is, the kid gets $1, teach them to give 10 cents, and kids have big hearts. Take them somewhere where there are people in need. Let them see that. And kids will easily give 10 cents of that $1. Now, he also said it's a lot easier to flip 10 cents out of $1 than 100,000 out of $1 million, right? And you think, oh, well, if I had $1 million, I'd give 100,000. Well, $100,000 is a lot of money. Would you really give that? So it's better to start teaching children at a young age when the numbers are smaller, right? That this is the concept. This is a beautiful way to live your life, is to give that. So 10 cents out of $1 now, or $1 out of 10. And you set up the practice. You set up the habit now. And as your money grows, the more you have to give. And so, yeah, I'm absolutely thrilled to be able to give 10% of all the money that comes to me. And one of the people that I follow online, actually the website is Blogging with Amy, bloggingwithamy.com. I talk about her some because she teaches a lot of the how-to aspects of having a website and having an online business and blogging, earning money through blogging, and I talk about that a lot too on my site. But she talks about the same thing. You know, I've been following her for years, and only recently have I seen her talk about it in this way. And she talked about times when they were in debt as a family and how they just made the decision and made the commitment to tithe 10%, to give 10% to charity. And they just took it right off the top of their gross earnings. I've done it both ways, net earnings and gross earnings, and ultimately just do what you think is right for you. No one's sitting over your shoulder telling you, what numbers to put into the calculator. It's all about what feels right to you. But it's just inspiring to me to hear other people talk about this practice and how powerful it can be in your life. What are you saying when you give 10%? You're saying that you have faith, that you have enough. You're saying that you have faith that you have more than enough. You have so much that you have extra to give. You have faith that more is coming to you. You have faith that you're going to have all that you need and more. Powerful signals. Powerful prayers of gratitude. I think it's an act of gratitude. And so, if you would like to learn more about the other 3 laws that Edwene Gaines shares, again, the 4 laws are tithing, goal setting, forgiveness, and divine purpose. And it's a good read. So I would recommend it. And the 4 spiritual laws of prosperity. And I'm going to go ahead and close for now. And thank you so much for being here today. And please do find me on the blog at thetruthaboutliving.com. I hope this has been inspirational for you. And please go forth and have a beautiful day. And if you feel inclined, get out that checkbook, right? and start to tithe today if you haven't already. I would love to hear though, and the blog is a great place to comment and give feedback or send me emails. But I would love to hear if you've been doing this practice, and if so, how it's affected your life positively. So we know it affects other people's lives positively as well. So it's just a win-win. I'm really grateful for having you here today, and I'm going to say goodbye for now.